The Republic's clone army was instrumental in the eradication of the Jedi Order for reasons we dare say are self-evident. It was the perfect trap. The Jedi were given armies of soldiers that would betray them when the time came. But what if they didn't accept the clone army? In this video, we'll be looking into why more Jedi didn't follow the lead of Rahm Kota, a Jedi general who started his own militia. Now, before we dive into this fully, there's an important side note to be made here. It isn't often mentioned or acknowledged, but the Grand Army of the Republic was more than just clones. Before Sifo Dyas even learned about Kamino, the Republic did have protection of sorts, in the form of the Judicial Services and the Planetary Security Forces. The Judicial Forces managed emergencies on a Republic-wide scale and included both the Jedi Order and a skilled force of light soldiers. Furthermore, each sector had its own set of planetary security forces, armies which were raised and maintained entirely by the worlds of the sector for the sake of self-defense. Neither of these was a full military, however, and though they were enough to keep the peace for a few hundred years, they were woefully unprepared to face an existential threat. When the Clone Wars broke out and the Grand Army of the Republic was officially formed, the clone army sent from Kamino formed the core of this new military, but the Judicial Forces and the PSFs were included as well. The Judicials were generally filtered into specialist roles, but the soldiers operating in planetary security forces were incorporated as units into the GAR, except of course those that seceded and joined the CIS. Many battles of the war were fought between PSFs without a single clone or droid in sight, but they were nowhere near enough to wage a full war, and the Jedi were generally not involved with them at all. Instead, the Jedi almost exclusively led armies of clones, which were spread out among the major battlefronts of the galaxy. Clone forces made the important moves in war, and all Jedi generals led armies of them. Well, almost all Jedi generals, that is. One Jedi general, named Rahm Kota, had an experience of his own with war, having grown up and fought in the trenches of a war-torn world. He viewed the clone troopers that the Republic had adopted as its army as unfit for battle, and instead formed his own militia of volunteer troops. He operated this militia alongside the clone armies led by his fellow Jedi, and he and his men won a number of victories for the Republic due to Kota's tactical prowess and the combat skill of his men. This ultimately paid off for Kota when Order 66 was issued. While his fellow Jedi were being massacred by clones across the galaxy, Kota was perfectly safe as he had no clones with him, and his own men were not so ready to execute their general. Kota and his militia became an early rebel cell, and in 2BBY they played an instrumental role in the creation of the Alliance to restore the Republic, who they helped win an early victory at Kamino. So why didn't more Jedi follow Kota's lead? Why did every other Jedi in the Order choose to blindly accept command of a mysterious army from a mysterious source that they knew precious little about? Well, the answer is actually simpler than you would think. First and foremost, the answer is because the Jedi weren't meant to be generals. Kota formed his own militia because he knew what he was doing and he had military experience, but he was a rarity. As we've discussed before, most Jedi were completely unprepared for command, and on a number of occasions they proved themselves to be technically inept and ill-adjusted to the role of general. The Jedi simply took command of clones because they had no clue what they were doing, and going out and forming a militia would just be another task on their plate that they didn't know how to do. Another contributing factor is skill. Kaminoan clone troopers were highly skilled, even the standard normie troopers, more so than just about any natural bred soldier. While Kota was eventually able to hone his militia into an equivalent, if not superior fighting force, nobody else really had the skill or knowledge that would enable them to do the same. If you're given an army of elite soldiers, why would you throw it away for a smaller army of less skilled soldiers? And of course, there's also a contributing factor that has a role in pretty much everything the Order did during the Clone Wars: a lack of vision. By the time of the Clone Wars, the Jedi had become complacent and their vision had been clouded by the dark side. But instead of becoming suspicious, they instead carried on blindly, as we see in the prequel trilogy. Very few knew or even suspected what was coming, and to be fair, it's hard to blame them. It's easy to say that they should have expected to be betrayed by the men under their command when you know that it happens, but they simply didn't. And as per usual guys, I want to know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you were a Jedi General, would you stick with the clones regardless of the consequences, or would you pull a Kota and throw a wrench into the EU continuity? But you guys can forget about militias now, because we have our Clone Wars roleplay where you can roleplay as your favorite clones, your favorite legions, your favorite battalions, as well as our Imperial roleplay and our Halo roleplay. and of course our Roblox roleplay. So if you're into gaming, if you want to join the wider community, make sure you check out all those links in the description below. And also a quick shout out to all my patrons, and if you want to help support this channel, you want to help increase the quality and quantity of videos like my current patrons are, make sure you check out that link in the description below as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in the next video.